Hi, everyone. Welcome to Open Thynks. I'm Alex Hoag. I'm head of sales in North America at Thynk. Today, we are here to talk about hospitality ideas with open industry thoughts and get to know some leaders' perspectives. I'm here with Amanda Frank, who is VP of Commercial Strategy at Pallet Hotels. Welcome, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, just to get going, if you don't mind, if you could just give us a little bit about yourself. I like to start off with something fun. We're going to ask you how you found yourself in hospitality, but first, how do you like to spend your time outside of work, or what's one of your favorite hobbies right now?
So I absolutely love to read. Very avid reader. I would love to say that I'm all about the industry topics and read nonfiction, but I really don't occasionally. But for the most part, I like a good mystery, not scary, just something that makes me think a little bit. And then I also do enjoy the beach reads just as something to step away from the day to day.
I hear you. I've been working really hard not to only read business side of spending my time there. And I am trying to read a bit more fictional, from that perspective. So
I'll give you a list.
please do. And in fact, I might take one from you so we can just kind of flash it across the screen here when we're done. Book
Perfect.
book recommendation. Um, all right. So how did you find yourself in hospitality?
Well, I kind of fell into it. I studied advertising and marketing in college on the communication side and didn't find a job immediately after college and became a ticket taker for the Indianapolis Indians. And my gate was next door to the Courtyard by Marriott in downtown Indianapolis, and their marquee flashed up a role for a sales assistant. Figured that probably was better hours and more consistent pay. When I applied, and was offered a job as a BT sales manager. And I didn't even know hotels had salespeople. So that's how I started. It was just kind of falling into it.
And the wild part is you've really progressed your career in sales, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep. I fell into it and kept looking for jobs in advertising. And about 6 months in, I was like, this is crazy. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm just going to see where this takes me. And it has taken me to a lot of different places, which has been great.
Very cool, including us meeting way back in the day at Evo
Yep.
Evolution Hospitality when I was with Travel Click. But I just think that
Yep.
speaks to this industry and why certain people choose to stay in it, which I very much appreciate
Absolutely.
you sharing. All right, let's get cracking because there's a couple things I want to ask you about just what's going on in our industry right now. So, as you know, the hospitality industry is undergoing a significant transformation due to advances in technology. Innovation in software, hardware, and digital solutions are revolutionizing guest experience and streamlining operations for hotels, resorts, restaurants, and even tourist attractions. I'm seeing a lot in the adventure travel space right now, too. What's most important to your properties right now when it comes to technology and the way things are shifting?
I would say keeping it simple. It's
Mm,
really about making sure that we roll out things thoughtfully, and not just like in a prayer to make sure that we're saying that we are embracing technology, but that we're actually implementing it thoughtfully so that our teams can catch up, so that they can use it appropriately, and so that there's actually an ROI at the end of the day for not just the properties and the users, but also for our owners.
I can appreciate that. And do you mind elaborating a little bit on thoughtful? Because I think people sometimes think they're being thoughtful or they're trying to do too much at once, for instance. So I'd love to
Mhm.
dive in a little bit more into exactly how you're approaching that thoughtfulness.
Well, I think that as an industry, we're actually behind. I mean, if
Mhm.
you think about the biggest players in the hospitality industry, we've been doing it the same way for
Exactly.
years and years and years. And so adapting can be, a little like turning the Titanic. It's not going to happen immediately. So when you feel like you're behind and you see so much happening, maybe even in the independent space versus the branded space, and you begin to try to catch up, you'll start doing too many things at once.
Yeah.
And there's so many options out there that vetting through them to decide this is the right platform, this is the right solution for this situation for us. And then how are you going to roll that out to your property teams if it's a property solution? And who on your team are you going to assign as the champion? If it's always the corporate team that's owning it, it's really not going to play out well. There has to be some ownership at the property level if they're the ones that are going to have to use the tool. And so I think it's been very much a matter of trying not to do too much too quickly in order to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that part of the thoughtful process. And then it's also we're really big at Pallet about progress over perfection. If we wait until it's absolutely, positively 1000% correct, by the time we get there, there's something new to do and figure out. So it's taking it in small pieces and implementing it and then perfecting it over time, but also in a smaller group. And I'd love to say that we've been perfect at that, and we're not. Some of that is coming through trial and error of having way too many tools, rolling them out way too quickly to the entire organization, and then realizing that we need to step back and kind of take it in smaller pieces. So that's what I mean by thoughtful.
No, I really appreciate that. And, I've actually been in other industries. I've seen the same challenges, actually. It's kind of like when all these sales tools all of a sudden came out, and I was like, I'm sorry, my company just purchased 6 sales tools. I'm a salesperson. I'm already in my process. A few can help me and some paralyzed me or just were a waste. And I think that's part of the challenge that I'm seeing right now too. As I talk to leaders like yourself and others in the industry, that's been a huge pattern that I've seen. So I can very much appreciate your thoughtfulness towards just really taking things in bite-sized phases, iterating. And actually, that really takes me into my next question, which is, there's some hot topics right now in the industry, right? We've got AI, we have sales automation, I just sort of mentioned, and we have commercial strategy. And because your title is commercial strategy, and that's really a new title that's emerged semi-recently in the past 2 years, barely. What does it mean to you and Pallet right now? Just expanding a little bit on what you were just talking about.
Yes, so it's interesting. It's that whole thoughtful approach. With Pallet starting 2 years ago, it really started with the more traditional siloed, if you will, departments of revenue management and then sales, with us using the marketing from our various brand partners. And I think the goal was always to move into commercial strategy. And I think that from an industry standpoint, quite honestly, I think it stems from there's more need and fewer people to do what needs to be done. And so if you have a focus on commercial strategy, meaning all of the revenue generating departments of revenue management, sales, marketing, distribution, and you pull all of those together into a cohesive conversation, ultimately, you're going to be more efficient with your time because you've brought everything together into a singular conversation. And I think we're also seen as an industry it's way more effective in terms of results and the tracking of those results if that conversation is being had as a unified team instead of revenue management doing what they're doing, sales doing what they're doing, marketing doing what they're doing, distribution's doing what they're doing, and then the bit of overlap that happens in normal conversation, but really making it more holistic on a day-to-day basis, I think is where the industry needed to go, because it's also the only way we're really going to be able to embrace all of the other technology and conversations that are coming out. the AI, the sales automation, if all of those entities are doing it their own way and with their own tools, the overlap will disappear. And then you have your hamsters running off in different directions instead of all running on the same wheel to move it forward. And so I think it's a great direction to go. I also just think that it stems from, we've seen changes in the industry. We need to do way more with fewer people, and this is a great way to do that. And also train up people that have been more revenue management focused to be involved in sales, to make sure our salespeople really understand the entirety of the revenue strategy for hotels, and then pulling in that marketing conversation to make sure that it's all being supported as we distribute our pricing and our content and everything else.
You mentioned that you have multiple brands you work with. I know you're a big Mixed Flag management group. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how that ties into the strategy you have to have at hand? Because obviously your hands are tied sometimes, and I'd love to just give other industry leaders in, you know, your position, you know, some of your feedback on this.
Great question. It does depend on the brand, on what we can do, what we can't do. And I think with working with the different brands, if I'm being really honest, I tend to forget sometimes what I can get done in different places. And so sometimes we go down a path and find out we can't do something. And so at the same time, it's also me and my team working with our brand partners to say, well, what about this? And how do we do this? And if we can do this over here and it's being effective for us, how do we make that happen within your brand? I think that's where there ends up being a lot of conversation. And then there's also the part that we have to be careful about is we're not giving up secrets from all the other brands when we're having these conversations, and kind of keeping some of that separate, but also trying to advocate for our owners to get what it is that they need to make money. At the end of the day, they're not owning a hotel just because they saw a pretty box and thought it'd be a lot of fun to own and have us operate. We want to make sure that we're driving that revenue so that at the end of the day, they get a nice check. I think that some of the challenges that come out of that also is there are so many franchise partners and management companies working with these brands that they're hearing things from different directions too, and then trying to prioritize what their roadmap is going to be towards success. And so I think really having those partnerships, like having strong relationships with our brand partners has been really key, and a big focus for us this year has been making sure that we have those positive interactions.
I appreciate that, because I do hear that often on the management side, where it's even falls to the salespeople. They can't get the owners what they need or the numbers they need. And that goes back up into the commercial discussion of who's going to own it. Is it on the salesperson? Is it on the sales leader? Is it on revenue? And that can be a very tricky thing. And I've seen franchise get involved too. Do you feel like the brands are listening though, these partners that you are working with, and taking your challenges?
I do. I think some listen better than others.
Sure.
I mean, and again, I also think that it's about how many properties you have within a certain brand where it becomes a better conversation. When you only have a couple of hotels within a brand, you're not going to be noisy enough to get anything really changed without partnering with other management companies to say, hey, are you having these conversations and challenges too? And how do we continue to advocate for our side as a franchise partner, as a management company? Then again, most of the brands now also have a council where they partner with their management company experts, and they're soliciting feedback and input and that. But I also think that as a management company representative, it's our responsibility to go back on a regular basis and keep beating the drum of, here's what we're seeing, here's what we need, how do we do this here? You have a framework, but how do we get this done?
No, and the reason I ask is deep down, that is still in the all-encompassing commercial strategy. If you encompass branded properties within your management group. So, and you also have owners too. So that's why I kind of
Mhm.
asked that question and try to understand it because, it looks different if you're solely independent and you have autonomy in different capacities. And I think it's important to discuss that because there's a real big mix across the world, quite frankly, in how that shapes out.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of fun to be had in an independent where there aren't any rules, and yet there's also no rules and no support. And you are figuring out all of that on your own. So it just brings up a different type of challenge for that commercial strategy conversation to say, I have no rules and no brand, but now what?
Very fair, touche. But what I will ask you, and you guys are newer, as you've mentioned, I noticed you are hiring for regional director of commercial. And
Yes.
do you mind just sharing a little bit about how that evolved and that position's already needed? Because I also think that the expansion of this specific department and the energy that you're putting forth to make these changes is a really cool story.
Yeah. So I actually, on my team currently, I have two regional directors of commercial strategy, one senior, one regional. And we are expanding that team because Pallet Hotels is expanding. And with our taking on additional properties in the Northeast, we're finding that it's going to be very beneficial for us to have someone that is based in that New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area that can easily visit the hotels. We try to keep our portfolios amongst our regionals relatively small compared
Cool.
to the industry standard. We're looking at 10 to 12 properties per person. Obviously, it'll flex a little bit here and there, but we're moving into quite a growth period for Pallet Hotels, and with that, we're expanding my team, which is fun.
Very cool. And does Pallet believe in really taking corporate to property too and understanding the ins and outs of your different markets, properties, but also owners for that matter?
Absolutely. So, not only on the commercial strategy team, but we have that same philosophy with our operations team.
Mm,
So, our regional directors of operations also have 10 to 12 hotels. Um, to some extent, our ownership aligned as possible. Also, market aligned, and then there is the requirement that they visit every one of their properties each month. Um, it might flex a little to 6 weeks, but we're very much about being part of the property and not a sit in the corporate office and dictate without understanding what it really is that our teams are going through. And that is different by hotel type, by location type, by team members. You can have hotels in the exact same market that have completely different ways of operating because of the people. And so we want to make sure that we stay connected to that.
no, I appreciate hearing that so much because I think the best of the best make sure they understand what it's like to be on property. And I
Mhm.
think there's a huge difference than just looking at numbers and managing above. So I
Mhm.
love to hear that and makes me happy for where you are at Pallet and what you guys are going to be able to continue on your growth trajectory. I'm going to change things up slightly, not too much, but there's obviously a lot of technologies and a lot of change at Pallet. So tell me, one that you either just implemented or that you're going to be implementing that you're really excited about.
Okay, so you know which one it is, and
I know,
it's
but I
Thynk,
did not ask you to say
which
this.
I know, but I am truly so excited about getting Thynk implemented for our sales teams. As you know, Pallet started 2 years ago, and we just have not had a solution for our sellers. And
Wow. Yeah.
while Excel can be great, it's not a sales CRM. the ability to roll things up across all of our hotels and keep track of everything, not the same. So I've been with the company for a little over 18 months, and I have to tell you that for 18 months, I've been working towards getting us a sales CRM, and to finally be like right at that finish line, I'm ecstatic. My team knows how excited I am. We're actually announcing it to our sellers on Friday during
Oh,
our monthly
awesome.
DOS Connect, so I can really tell them that it's for real and it's going to happen. But yes, it seems like it was well placed, but it really is my most exciting platform.
No, I asked you seconds before we started, and I was like, are you sure you want to use this? Because I'm sure there's other technologies, but we are very excited to have Pallet as a customer. We are about to start implementation just after your announcement, pretty much starting next week or the week after. We're aligning our calendars right now. But I actually see the Excel and removal of Excel, with implementation of Thynk, or more than you think. You'd be shocked. And especially
Sure.
that's why I was asking you some of the questions about being a mixed flag branded group. It's tough, and you have so many solutions that you're going into. How do you really solve for that? So we might have to come back and do a little check-in on how everything rolls out for your team, but we are very excited to have you as a customer, and really give you some sort of centralized solution that everyone can see, what's going on. And I think that'll be hopefully really great for the owners too. Okay. I'm going to kind of fire a few more at you because I think this is fun,
Sure.
but what's one of the biggest challenges in your role, or what keeps you up at night in general right now?
I think the biggest challenge is balancing the people.
Ooh.
It's really making sure that we are truly supporting our hotel teams, but as the intermediary for our owners. And as a people first organization, and as a people first person, that's rough. I want to make sure that we are constantly focused on the hospitality part of this industry. And that's taking care of, again, our employees and our owners, but also our guests. And there's so much in the world anyway that delivering that hospitable service, and being hospitable to our people, I think becomes more and more important, and it's easy to lose. I think it's easy to lose that part of it when we're people dealing with people who act like people. And so the more we can stay focused on that, the better. So it's taking all of that and then saying, okay, how do I make sure that what I'm doing takes all these people into account and makes them the best people they can possibly be, whether that's new technology, whether it's new processes and procedures, whether it's having to go to a property team and say, yo, what's going on?
Yeah.
We're not doing our best here. What does that look like? And I think because that's so important to me, that it does keep me up at night on how do we keep that and keep it positive and have fun? This is supposed to be a whole lot of fun, this industry that we're in. And sometimes we make it very difficult to have fun.
No, I hear you. This is where sometimes I draw from the energy from like an HSMAI event, a local one, because we'll talk about things like this, or what are you doing to motivate, and vice versa. And I think getting out there and even beyond your job, but with industry, professionals alike, it can actually spark something in you too. But it starts with, you must be sparked by your company that you're working for and the property that you're working for. So I really hear you.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that will change keeping you up at night, unfortunately. But I'm hopeful that, you know, implementing in phases and starting with just a new solution, and then maybe connecting the dots from like a data implementation perspective slowly starts to build trust with your teams too, and show different ways that they can be successful without it being overwhelming with change.
Absolutely.
All right. I guess, I've got a couple other questions, but I'm really just looking for, are there any lessons you've learned over the years in hospitality? And it could be a funny story or any piece of advice that you want to share with others in the industry, just to kind of close things out.
Oh, I have lots of funny stories. I mean, that's the industry that we're in. People are funny, so there's some good ones.
Oh, yes.
I think the thing that's important, that I like to share is just being flexible, being willing to pivot when an idea doesn't work or when the world goes sideways and there's some recession or COVID, or I mean, you can't prepare for those. So just being flexible and realizing that what you've been doing that has been working may not always be the best path forward for the future. And so if you can remain open to the idea that there could be other ways of doing things, then you could continue, well, you will continue to be successful, but you're also going to end up having a lot of fun in the process. Maybe in hindsight, maybe not while you're in the middle of all the chaos, but just being flexible, I think, has really been something that I both struggled with and enjoyed. There are times where I want my idea to work because it's my idea and I'm right. And then I'm
Yeah.
not right. And that's a horrible thing to have to face. But being flexible in that and willing to make adjustments, I think, is really key in this industry.
Yeah, but without failure, there's no success. So, you've got to
So true.
have bumps along the road, and I hear you, and I think that's lovely advice. Well, I want to thank you so much for being a part of Open Thynks with me today, Amanda. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll be in touch soon.
Wonderful. Thanks, Alex.